This is a Sports Radio Live podcast covering your world of sports. Bryan Houston's Sports Radio Live. It's weekdays at 3 on 99.3 Talk FM, the talk of East Texas.
And, man, I'm all excited and jazzed all of a sudden.
It's just crazy time.
I like
in a good way, in a terrific way.
It's a great way. I had this show all planned out this afternoon and had different guests and things like this going on. And all of a sudden, about 5 minutes ago, I got a phone call. You've already got it? Okay. I got a phone call. I've been trying to put this together for a few weeks, and I got a phone call just a few minutes ago, and suddenly we called an audible because when former LSU coach Dale Brown calls you, you move things out of the way to get this guy on the air. And on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com, joining us right now, the man who made LSU basketball what it was and what we'd like to see it become again someday, Coach Dale Brown on the line. How you doing, Coach?
Brian, I got not one complaint in the world, and if I did, nobody wants to hear it anyway, so keep it to yourself, I guess.
I promise I won't. I know you have no memory of this because I was only in Baton Rouge for a very,
now, I might surprise you.
Well,
you do before you say it.
You have done that, but when Tim Brando left his radio talk show back in 1981, I replaced him, and they stopped doing the talk show, but he took me around to meet various people, and we went to your office to meet with you, and you started throwing out Floyd and Peggy Wagstaff's name, and I said, this guy knows everybody.
Oh, wow.
Well,
when you're from Minot, North Dakota, and you don't have anybody to talk to, you want to meet people to talk to, so Tyler, how big is Tyler, Texas?
It's about 105,000 people all told.
Okay,
now.
I grew up in a town of 17,000.
Yep, well, so did I.
Brian.
So did I. I grew up in Eunice, Louisiana. In fact, you came to a high school banquet when I was in high school to speak at that banquet right after you took the job at LSU. And from that point on, we knew something different was getting ready to happen in Baton Rouge, Louisiana with basketball. How did you take a state that just was void of any interest in basketball and literally turn it into the situation it became at LSU, where you had a team that was always a top 25, 2 Final Fours, all that? I mean, you took it from nothing.
Brian, a lot of my friends told me, you're making a major mistake. You're going into football country. I think you're making a mistake. They said, I don't think you can build a program there. It's too top-heavy with football. When I got the job, Joe Dean, who was in with Converse Rubber Company and played here, he told me, he said, well, let me tell you what you're in for. Now, he said, don't think I'm embellishing this. He said, you're going to have to sweep the floor, put down your own baskets, keep score. He said, probably they're going to have you sing the national anthem. He said, this is a tough job. And, you know, at first I thought maybe he was embellishing it. He was not. Basketball had been put on the back burner. It was almost impossible for anybody to win here, really and truly. I mean, the poor coaches that preceded me, you know, they played in the cow barn. Even the great Pistol Pete Maravich didn't get to play in the building named after him. But I thought the first thing I'm going to have to do is have to create some excitement. I would have preferred to honestly have just sat on the bench and not promote things. So I started to promote things. I found out there was a company in Korea that had some purple and gold nets. I bought 1,500 of them, did not come out of the budget, came out of my own pocket. We had a theme. We said, join the Tiger Safari. We're on a safari here. We're trying to build this basketball program. My assistant coach at that time was Homer Drew, who became the famous coach at Valparaiso, and his son, Scott Drew, was at Baylor.
Yes.
So his wife was a poet, so she wrote a little poem. We got plastic sacks, put the purple and gold nets in there. We put our schedule, our business cards, and then she wrote a little poem. This is a net from the purple and gold for a sport that will never grow old. LSU basketball wants you to know, and went on and on, join our safari. So we had we tried all kinds of things. I remember one time we got a hold of the World Arm Wrestling Championship. We're going to bring him here to perform, just to try to get people in the seats. But thank God, it took also I had some very good assistants that were good eyes, good recruiters, and had good eyes for talent. But it was not easy, and it still is not easy. This is still really a football community, even though we changed it partially during our good run. So, but if it wouldn't have been a hard job, I'd never gotten the thing because they wouldn't have probably fired the guy ahead of me.
Now, I looked at this, and I can't believe you actually have been retired from coaching since '97. Now, it just doesn't seem like it's that long ago. That's incredible. What have you been doing with your time all this time since then?
I have a nonprofit foundation that we started to help people in need. We've sort of twerked it a little. Now we're just doing it to help people that want to get an education and don't have the money to go to school, and if they qualify, we'll help them with some aid to get into college. I also do a great deal of motivational speaking. I speak about once a week all over the country. I don't do as much international traveling. I've been in 90 countries in the world, and I thought maybe before the good Lord takes me from this earth, I'd get to the last 90. That's on my bucket list. And then I have 3 grandsons that moved to California, so I try to get out there and see them as much as I can. And basically, that takes up... I now have just written a new book, which has taken a lot of time, the book signings and then the promotions they do. So the time is filled amazingly. And I would suggest to somebody that's interested, Brian, in retiring, if you're an active person, just don't retire and sit in a rocking chair. I said when I retired, retirement can be one of 2 things, either a rocking chair or a launching pad. Mm-hmm. And I'm choosing to use it a launching pad to go to a new career.
Well, I would have expected nothing less from you, Coach. I want to talk to you about the book in just a minute, but before I do that, I want to ask you, what do you think, and boy, this is a loaded question for you, I know, but what do you think of the state of college basketball today?
I think things are... The NCAA is an organization, Frank DeFord, the great writer, said it's the largest legal cartel in the world. My personal feeling, from my experience in dealing with the NCAA, they legislate against human dignity. They practice monumental hypocrisy. The organization itself has become greedy and dominant and almost with a Gestapo tactic. This is the United States of America. It's not Albania. It's not Iraq. It's not Iran. It's not anywhere else. It's the United States of America. Yet this very organization has been a very clandestine operation. Now they are trying to change. They're making some headway. And I would say this, Brian, they've come millions of miles, but they got 10 light years to go. So the organization itself, the unbelievable salaries coaches are making now, I think have a tendency to make coaches maybe want to go for the money, move to one job to another. And the paramount example would be John Wooden, the greatest coach that ever lived, Brian, won 10 national championships. The biggest salary he ever made at UCLA, and you're going to say, no, Dale's got that wrong, $32,500.
Wow, that's
also
incredible.
A great number of players, and I'm not trying to indict all basketball players, obviously, but there's too many players that have delusions of grandeur that they should just go into the pros out of high school. The NCAA has absolutely ludicrous rule. They say they can't go to pro unless they go to college for 1 year. So what a young man will do, he doesn't want to go to college, and that's understandable. This is the free enterprise system. He has to come to school. All he has to do is go to class the first semester. He has to do nothing the second semester. He can stay in the dorm. He can stay in his apartment. He knows he's not going to be back. So I think greed has set in a little bit. It's a great game with some great athletes, and it's the progress of it all over the world. I saw Yao Ming when nobody really knew who Yao Ming was. I saw him in Beijing, and I also saw him in Shanghai. It's spread all over the world. The game is now like soccer. It's international.
I want to ask you about the book. It's called Getting Over the 4 Hurdles of Life. Tell me about it.
Basically, I could sum it up this way, Brian. There are 7 billion of us walking this planet right now. Doesn't make any difference when they snip your umbilical cord, in, whether it be in Baghdad, Iraq, Bunkie, Louisiana, or Bismarck, North Dakota, or Barstow, California, everybody says they would like to be successful. But do they add an asterisk to that and say, I'd like to be successful and I'd like to be happy? So I've set this book up with the idea there are 4 major hurdles. All 7 billion of us, Bryan, Dale, everybody else, have to jump over. We can't lie our way over them. We can't con our way over them. We can't barter our way over them. We can't cheat our way over them. We have to jump over these hurdles. And I give analogies of these 4 hurdles that people that didn't get over them right away. We have a tendency to think that people are ultra successful, just got there. For example, when we get into the starting blocks and that gun goes off, the first hurdle we have to overcome in life is the hurdle of I can't, or being told you can't. Now, a paramount example of that, and I try to use a star that fell over that hurdle, didn't get over it at first, was Shaquille O'Neal. He tried out for his high school team, Bryan. He was cut. He went to see the coach. The coach told him, give up the sport. He said, you're too slow, you're too clumsy, you have too big a feet, you could never be a basketball player. Why don't you think of being a goalie in soccer? Shaq wrote me this in a letter. Well, I sat down behind my desk and I thought, now, what the heck? This poor kid, he couldn't get over hurdle 1. How's he going to get over the rest of them? What profound statement can I make a 13-year-old child that's just had his heart broken? I thought, heck, that's easy. I'm going to tell him about my life. So I sat down and I wrote, Dear Shaq, I'm real sorry what happened to you. But every time in my life when I failed, was heartbroken, was told I wouldn't amount to be something, I tried something and it always worked for me, and I bet it'll work for you. It's fairly simple. If you always sincerely try to do your very best and you never give up, if you keep your dream alive and persevere, eventually God will take care of everything else. Well, I'm not naive enough to think that little dissertation drove him to greatness, but he did say without those weekly letters he wouldn't have made it. Then the hurdle number 2 we have to get over. Now we get over I can't. And now we have some failure. You show me the most spiritual person in Texas or Louisiana, I'll show you the person that committed the most sins. But they grew from it. You show me the top salesman in the country, I'll show you the guy that knocked on the most doors. He failed the most. The example I give of failure, this guy really wanted to be a film director. It's all he thought about. He did it in his garage growing up. He got out of high school and he went immediately to UCLA to try to get in. He did not get into UCLA. They rejected him twice. He then went to second best film school, Southern California. 2 big rejections, multiple rejections at Southern Cal. Now, instead of giving up his dream and getting over the hurdles, he pursued it. He went to a little school that had just really turned into a 4-year school. Nobody knew much about it. A junior college. It turned into Long Beach City College. They were kind of, if you had a pulse, you could get in there at that time, I guess. They let him in, and I think they're real happy they did. If you'll go on their campus now, you'll see a building named Steven Spielberg Film Directing School.
Very cool.
Steven Spielberg.
That's awesome. That's unbelievable.
Well, we got 2 more hurdles if I got time to go over them.
Sure.
Then the handicap. Man alive, you get into a situation where just things go wrong. You have tremendous handicap. So how do you handle severe handicaps? Well, I think one way of handling a severe handicap is to understand that the French call it idée fixe. Whatever you fix in your mind becomes. A young boy was told he had Bright's disease. His parents and him were told he'd never live past 12. This young boy had a major handicap. He had a kidney disease. He was going to die by 12. He went and got old car axles, buckets of cement, started to pour the cement in there, started lifting weights. Pretty soon he won the Georgia weightlifting championship. Then he won some amateur ones. Then the Olympic team invited him. He won the gold medal. He went on and broke 9 world records. He became the strongest human being in the world. His name is Paul Anderson.
Wow. Wow.
And today, most of his records still established. Then the 4th hurdle. Darn it, I wish this one wasn't there. In a hurdle race, all hurdles are sequentially same distance apart. This one isn't. It might be closer, might be further away, might be in an angle, might hit you in the face. Most of us go to our grave with this. It's know yourself. Who am I? Where am I going, and what do I want out of life? I used my friend Pete Maravich as an example. I had him talk to the team one time. Now, I thought he was successful. I thought he represented everything that was successful. He was the leading scorer in the history of basketball, 44.2 points a game. No one's gotten close. He got up and talked to the team, and he said, guys, he said, I had everything the world calls success. He said, man, I had all the chicks chasing me. He said, I drank too much. I tried to communicate with extraterrestrial people. He said, I gambled. I had $3,000 to $4,000 in my pocket all the time. I drove flashy cars. I lived in mansions. He said, I was a miserable human being. One night in my home in Louisiana, he said, I was so miserable. I walked around that house till 4 a.m. in the morning. I went into a spare bedroom. I opened up a drawer, took out a pistol. I was going to put it in the roof of my mouth and commit suicide. Hold on, time out. Pete Maravich? He said, I laid the pistol down on the bed, and I fell prone on the bed, tears in my eyes. I didn't even know if there was a God. I spit at him. I mocked him. But he said, I said a prayer. If there is a God, somehow, some way, would you please touch my miserable life? Guys, he said instantly, I can't explain this. For the first time in my life, the peace took over my entire body. He said, I didn't see the sun dance in the sky. The sea didn't part. I heard no voices. But he said, God came into my life, and when I finally decided I'm going to know myself, I'm going to live properly, he said, whatever you do not let your possessions possess you, or you'll make the same mistake I did. Well, what Pete was talking about, in 1806, the first Webster Dictionary was printed. Under the word success in 1806, they described it as fortunate, happy, kind, and prosperous. Now, that rolled off my tongue pretty easy. Fortunate, happy, kind, and prosperous. 2012, the Webster Dictionary says attainment of wealth, fame, rank, and power.
Wow.
We've lost our moral compass. Not that we should be poor or suffer. I don't want to live in a trailer again. I don't want to live in a one-room apartment. But when money dictates everything and greed sets in, we're never going to find success and happiness. The book is brief. It's 150 pages. If anybody's interested, they can get it in Amazon, Walmart. They can go online and get it. And basically that's it. I tried to pattern it after Norman Vincent Peale's book, The Father of Positive Thinking. He wrote a book, The Power of Positive Thinking. It was 150 pages or less. That way it wasn't like War and Peace. It took you 2.5 months to read the darn thing.
Oh, that's great stuff, Coach. I can't wait to read it. I am just absolutely thrilled and honored that you came on the show, and it's been a great time for me. And we hope that if you ever get into East Texas, we'd love to see you come
Bryan,
by.
I might surprise you. And thank you, and I'll tell Tim Brando, who I'm going to try to talk to tonight, I'll tell him I talked to his heir apparent.
And we talk occasionally. He comes on the show from time to time.
Okay, Bryan. Well, thanks a lot. When you're down in the Red Stick City, come and see me.
I will absolutely do it. Coach Dale Brown,
Bryan.
thank you very much. Have a great day.
This is a Sports Radio Live podcast covering your world of sports. Bryan Houston's Sports Radio Live. It's weekdays at 3 on 99.3 Talk FM, the talk of East Texas.